Awesome.
Yay.
All right. So thank you, Angela, so much for joining me on another episode of Conscious Conversations. I'm very excited to have you here.
Yay. I'm so happy to be here. Thank you, Leigh, for inviting me and just doing this. This is really, really a wonderful thing that you've got going on here.
Well, I didn't really have much of a choice. I feel like it was just, one of those things that just was coming from my soul. Like, yeah, you need to do this. You really need to do this, even though it was kind of scary. And but it's been so much fun, I have to say. Like, it was scary at first, but now I'm just having a blast doing it. I love it.
Yeah, they say, right? When you know you're in alignment, it feels effortless and it flows. And that's kind of why I do the work that I do too. Otherwise, I wouldn't
Yeah.
do it. I want it to be fun.
Right? Because I think life is supposed to be fun, but I think everybody's so serious all the time.
Absolutely.
So,
Absolutely. Yeah, I've been having interesting time settling into my new hometown of Taos, New Mexico. And they call it like the initiation experience, where it's like you just have like one thing after another kind of like happen. I think it's to like settle you in, also just to kind of help you like clear out what I've seen is like layers and levels of suffering, right? Of where we believe life needs to be hard. So you'll and what I've experienced is like I'll end up like having snags. So many people talk about like if you aren't welcome in like Santa Fe or Taos, the city actually kicks you out and you won't find a place to live. And it's been super challenging for me to find a place to live. I have a place to live. It's temporary, so I don't know like when this time is up if I'm not going to stay or not. I don't know.
how long are you there for at your temporary place?
I have a lease for like 4 months, and then after that, it's month to month because there's a lot of places around here that are trying to sell. So they either would keep me here with a new landlord, or the person would move in. So I don't know. It's
Okay.
just, and it takes a longer time. I guess the real estate in this area, they have like a 90-day closing, which most, at least in Florida, it was like 45 days. So they want to make sure, one, that you have the funds and that you're serious. And it's like this whole thing. I've never lived anywhere quite as like unique as it is here.
That reminds me of how it was in Encinitas, California.
Mm.
And I think that the town did kick me out. I got kicked out.
Yeah. And you know what? I've heard a lot about Asheville being like that with a lot of people, that it boots people out. Like it's a lot of people want to move there and settle, but like it doesn't align, it doesn't work. And I think Taos and Asheville are on like a similar like ley line or like trajectory, because there's a lot of people that go back and forth between like here in Asheville and here in Hawaii. So it's just really interesting.
It is, isn't it? Like, being someone who is, coming into a new town and you're, trying to get your bearings and you're trying to settle and like nothing seems to be really lining up or working out. And you're like, what is this? What is going on? Because you want to be
Yeah.
there. But
Well, part of me was like, at that point, I was like, I don't really want to be here. Right. At that point, I was just like, but I felt like I had to be here. So it wasn't even that I was like happy to live anywhere. I'm not
oh,
attached to
okay.
places. Like I've lived in like 15, 16 different cities, maybe more, right? In 5 different states, maybe. Like I've lived in Georgia, Florida, New Mexico now, Alaska, Michigan. Yeah. So 5, and California, 6. So I've lived a lot of places. And my heart and soul really want to root. And the only place like spirit was telling me, like, the beginning of this year, I was having dreams and it was starting to come in about like New Mexico, and spirit was like, just decide. And I was like, okay. So I thought like, well, that was back in May. I came out and like just spent a month traveling through Texas and New Mexico and just hanging out. And I legit did not think it's December that I would have a place. Like it took that long. But I was also in different cities, right? I was hanging out, going back and forth between Rama and Santa Fe because I thought I was going to settle in Santa Fe, and Spirit kept pushing me to Taos like so many different times. Like I booked an Airbnb once and I booked it on an entirely different month and week. And I tried to cancel it and it was like, no, you can't. And I was like, okay, I guess I'm going there again. So I had booked 2 trips to Taos at 2 separate times in different Airbnbs. And then it just, every time I'd go to Santa Fe, it was like, no, go back to Taos. And I'm like, I don't know why you want me here. Still don't necessarily know why, but I'm here, you know?
Yeah.
It's been a very humbling experience.
And very interesting also, because I remember when we met in person, that was May. Yeah. It was like ends of April, early May, something like that.
Yeah.
And yeah, I came down to the temple for a ceremony, and I remember that I got out this Palo Santo like little tin of balm that I had, and I brought it out for everybody. And somebody was like, where'd you get that? I was like, New Mexico. And then I remember you kind of like lighting up like, oh, okay, there's another sign.
Oh my God, I don't even remember that. That's so funny.
Yeah. So this is something that I love about you and I admire, is when you feel the call to do something, you do it. Because I think that like so many people, they feel a call to do something, or they have a dream that, they want to do something and they never do it. And I just really admire that about you. I love that.
Thank you. And I do want to say, so I was called in my early 20s to do a spiritual pilgrimage that I ended up doing, but it took me 12 years to answer the call. So it's really important that I feel like this message is super important, that nothing that is for you will ever go by you, but it's like our choice to decide, right? Always your choice to decide. And when we answer the calls, to me, it's made my life exponentially better, but it's challenging. It's going to challenge every piece and part of you, because it's challenging all of the false things, right? Which is a part of what just sets up, to me, like life, like a lot of the things that we buy into our lives. And to navigate and move through that is very synchronistic. And it's very like on purpose when you are answering the call, but it is deeply, deeply challenging. And some people are going to have more challenges than others, right? Because not one person's path is like another. But if people aren't answering their call, it kept coming back around for me. So it's not like it went away. It's like one of those itches, like you can't reach and you can't scratch, and it's going to forever bug you.
Right. Yeah, I feel like with a lot of those, it's like, well, you're gonna have to do it at some point, like whether it's like this lifetime or another one, or who knows how that all works, right? But I feel like,
Right.
you're gonna have to do it sometime. So,
And that's a part of, to me, like answering the call that I got in this life felt like something I hadn't completed in another life. And once I actually completed that, my life in this life felt like was wide open. Like, oh my God, I have my life, because I answered that. I fulfilled whatever that was. And I could move forward in a way that I was more present with my life and wasn't always, like having part of my consciousness in that energy or in that longing. Until it's fulfilled, I feel like a part of us kind of like stays, hooked into that. I'm not sure if I'm using the right languaging or if that'll resonate for anyone else, but I definitely felt like I had carried it from another life. And once I completed it, I was like, oh my God, now what? But it felt like it was wide open, right? I can finally live my life in this life. Okay. Only took me 30 seconds.
I do understand what you're saying. And I feel like I'm going to be totally transparent. I don't think I'm there yet. I think I'm still working on that. And but I definitely do have a lot of those now what moments where,
Mm.
you know, I do something, whatever the call is for me to do, I do it. And then I, you know, learn more about myself. And yeah, and it's always challenging, right? It's so funny because I think this is just like, you know, I want it so badly to be easy, but I think this is just part of my journey, is just to go through, you know, some more challenging experiences. And I'm not resisting it. I'm just kind of like, you know, surrendering to it to make it, you know, as easy, I guess, as it can be. But you know, each time there definitely is a lot of growth. So, and I'm very thankful for that. But yeah, I do find myself in that now what moment. Like, okay, I've done that thing. Now what? Like I only know up until about, I don't know, maybe 6 months from now, and then I have no idea what is
And
gonna.
even though people are settled, I'm hearing this so much though, like, because we're in such a time collectively, at least what I've been seeing with friends and clients is just like many people aren't, there's not that projected out into the future as much. Like, I feel like life is really asking us to be here and really deal with what we're carrying from our past, right? A lot of people are like, well, don't live in the past, but it's like unconsciously, many of us, they do. We carry so much of it with us. And I feel like that's a part of kind of what's happening now, is for us to unearth those pieces, be present with ourselves at a level that collectively we haven't, to really value like our now moments and the people around us and the choices we're making. And I do find it funny though, everyone I'm surrounded by says I don't have a choice a lot right now, because there's such this energy of being in alignment with spirit or your calling, or you know, your heart. And it's like, I can't do anything else, because
Right.
it's like it's not even possible, right? There's just this energy of like, you have to be who you are and you have to live from that place. And there's the other choice would be like, to me, death or misery, right?
Right.
And we're
Yeah,
all kind of facing that a little bit.
exactly. Because, you know, there are definitely some moments where my mind wants to go back to that, you know, secure and safe lifestyle, which is really just like an illusion anyway, because it can all be taken away. But, you know, having like having everything, how do I want to say this? Having everything, like I know what I'm getting. Like I know what to expect. You know, it's like, okay, well,
Yeah.
you know, I work this job.
Predictable.
Yeah, it's predictable.
Predictability creates like a false sense
It's
of
a false
safety.
sense of security.
Yeah.
Exactly. Exactly. But I don't know, like there might also be a balance somewhere, because it's exhausting. It is
Yeah.
exhausting to be doing this work all the time. And I'm finding for myself that the situation that I've put myself in is that I'm living with other people. And, you know, I'm the type of person that sometimes I really like my alone time.
Yeah.
And that's been something I haven't really been getting so much of. So yeah, it's been interesting. It's been interesting, but I'm learning that that's definitely something I do need.
Yeah, same. I mean, I love living with other people, but having my own space while living with other people is really nice.
Mhm.
Or like being able to carve out that like alone time is really essential to my well-being. But I love living in community. So I'm
Yeah.
living by myself for the first time in the last probably 2 years, because I
Oh,
was in
wow.
community living in Florida for like a year.
Mhm.
Um, and then pretty much I've been living with different people all
Right.
of this year
So
as
how
well.
does
And
that so how does that feel?
um I feel like it feels good right now. This is definitely what I need. I possibly might get a roommate, you know, in a month or so. Um I really like living with other people. I've been by myself for most of my life, or like raising my son as a single parent. And I feel like we're better together, like in community. And some people aren't built for community. I understand, there's a level in the spiritual community that they have fantasy of living in community. And it's like, it's actually a lot of hard work to live with other people, because you really have to face a lot of your projections. And many people don't want to face what they project, right? Because that's kind of like the uglies turned inside out, right? The stuff that we project is the parts of us we don't like. We're like, no, it's them. It's definitely not us. It's definitely not me.
It's definitely
That
not
is
me.
not something I have.
Never be me. No.
Right. Never be me. No. That's all you. You're super narcissistic. I feel like this is like the whole spiritual community. I just want to do like parodies, right? About like that, just like, I'm too spiritual for those qualities. They're not me.
Right. Okay. Yeah. Yeah, that's so interesting. So you're finding yourself living alone again for the first time in a while, and you're in this small town in Taos. And I was in Taos in I want to say that was 2020 last year. I'm like, time is so.
I know. It's like what we're moving into 2022, and almost like, yeah, the last 2 years have been, I'm sure, intense as fuck for most people. I don't know if I can say that language.
Oh yeah, say whatever you want. Yeah, I guess I was there in 2020, and I want to say it was summer, fall, something like that. Yeah, but I, got to go out to Taos, and it's definitely a very special energy there. Tell us about your experience living in Taos and living in a small town.
So I feel like they call it the mountains, or it's like a particular energy, or the ancestors of the land. They very much called me here. So they've like, kind of aligned with me, but like it hasn't necessarily made my life easy, just because it's like the land called me here, the mountains called me here, the ancestors want me here. It's like really been, and I'm not really big on like things testing us, but I definitely have felt like I've been put through the ringer in a way that is, I guess, to strip me down, right? To strip away the things that aren't serving me. And I had done a teepee ceremony out. It was on the border of New Mexico and Arizona. So I did a traditional teepee ceremony, which is with the peyote medicine.
Oh, okay. Very nice.
And yeah, after the ceremony, I had a lot revealed. It was a very big ceremony. It felt like very divinely aligned. I had like 3 days in a row, 3 hawks fly over me. A medicine man invited us, and I was like, oh, I'm not going, right? I'm not going. I don't have anyone to watch my dog. I don't know where I'm going to stay. Like, there was just like, to me, like things will just like, and then it just lined up, right? Somebody could watch my dog. I could go, no problem. And I went, and I was just like, the medicine, it's not a hallucinogen like most medicines are. Like, you're very present, you're very clear. But I took a lot, like the medicine had me take a lot of medicine. So I took a lot of medicine. I didn't even remember, I think, a couple of the rounds, because I was just so focused on the fire. So you're sitting up, you're in a teepee, there's a fire going, people are singing songs, and you're having whatever revelations or insights you're supposed to have. And it was very powerful. I would say I'm probably still integrating that. Was a couple of months ago. Mm-hmm. But I think it was like a week after that, the little Airbnb where I was staying in, there were 4 hawks posted on this fence facing the mountain, and there were 2 on the ground. And the energy was so powerful. Like, I'd never experienced anything like this. One, I've never seen hawks line up facing a mountain right outside my door, right? Like maybe 20 feet away. There's soldiers posted up looking at the mountain. And that morning, a medicine woman had messaged me, and her name is Black Mountain. And I'm just like, when you start getting things like that, it's like, pay attention. Oh, okay. The mountain has a message for you. Oh, okay. like, hello, mountain. Thanks for calling me. Like, it's like I've been put on notice like so many times, like, okay, I'm listening. And it's just been, I just feel like coming here has been divinely aligned. And I don't feel like it's like my life feels like my own at the same time, right? I'm just being, I guess they call it like a hollow bone. Like I'm being hollowed out so that I'm just this vessel for spirit. And yeah, definitely feel like my knees have been in the dirt. My face has been like in prayer position. Like, what would you have me do? Like next? Because I don't know, I don't know what to do. I'm here. I'm present. There
Wow.
might be some delay on my side though with the internet.
Yeah, that's okay. I think you're coming through pretty good. So I'm so interested about peyote too, because that's something that I've been interested in, but I haven't sat with yet. So you said it's not as hallucinogenic.
Yeah, at all. So
Okay,
um
so
so
you're
most
still
people will
very
talk about the medicine, it's like very subtle, right? And it's so it's a cactus. They're buttons. They're found all through the Southwest and Mexico. They can take like, oh my God, like up to 20 years to mature a button.
yeah, I've heard
Um,
it takes a long
which
time.
is really, I mean, that's going to be potent. So the teepee that I sat in, they call peyote grandmother. And so a lot of more of the Mexican tradition will consider peyote grandmother, and more of like the northern plains that work with the peyote consider it grandfather.
Mhm.
I didn't necessarily feel the grandmother energy personally. I felt more of a masculine energy. It felt more of a like a masculine ceremony. Um, but it's a beautiful medicine. It's really, really beautiful. So you don't, definitely you're not out of your body, you're not out of mind, you're sitting up, looking at the fire, and ceremonies can be like anywhere from I think like 8 to 10 hours long. So you'll start maybe at like 9 or 10 at night and you'll go until 6, 7, 8, maybe 10 the next morning. So they can be rather long where you're sitting. Definitely felt like I was being burned alive.
Burned alive. So did it was heightening all your senses?
Well, I mean, the fire keeper had the fire really hot. Like
Okay.
literally my skin was red. I was very, and I was in a position around the teepee that I was pretty close. I was one of the closest to the fire. So it
Okay.
was very intense.
Note to self.
Yeah.
Um,
So I've had other people that have been in other teepees and they're like, I've never been in a teepee that a fire was that hot before.
yeah.
So I was like, apparently it was supposed to be that way, right? It was like
Okay.
burning all the pieces of me away.
Right. So,
Literally.
and what about like the sensations in your body? Was there nausea? Was there discomfort?
At times, but I feel like with most medicines, because I've experienced most medicines and worked with them for like many years now. I feel like the nausea just comes with feelings that we're not allowing ourselves to have, or we don't feel safe to have, right? So that's more of that, because every container is different, and I was moving through different layers of emotions.
Mhm.
And I was definitely nauseous towards the end, but it was just because I didn't feel like I could move really deep into emotions. It felt very like a stoic energy, very masculine,
Yeah.
right? Like,
Right.
not that emotions aren't allowed, but there's still deep conditioning with the wounded masculine that's in all of us,
Yeah.
including myself, that I feel like shows up in ceremonies that most people in plant medicine ceremonies are very unconscious of because they're living it. So you often don't see what you are in. And in the medicine communities, there is a deep wounded masculine energy amongst all tribes. This isn't like, because this is like all the way through all of South America, Central America. There's just in ceremonies that I've seen a a deep, deep wounded masculine that's not being acknowledged and integrated with ceremonial leaders. And that's it doesn't matter what background you are. This could be even in Europe or in Asia or Russia. This is global. This is as big as the pandemic, because as much as there's a wounded feminine, right? Or the feminine that's being asked to be risen within us, there's a wounded masculine in all of us. And in that ceremony, I got to see it. I within myself first, in order to see it, how it's playing out in our collective, how it's playing out in our ceremonies, how it's playing out, and then they play off each other, right? The wounded feminine, it's like that cycle plays on the wounded masculine. And then it's like, I feel like that's also kind of what creates this rape culture that is on the planet that most people don't want to talk about, right? Because that's uncomfortable. And
I talk about it.
do you?
I talk about it, and it does make people really uncomfortable. They're like, oh,
Yeah.
you said that word. Oh my gosh. And it's like, well, but that's the energy behind a lot of things right now. This whole,
Yeah.
I'm going to take it just because I want to.
Because I can, right? It's the power over the authoritative energy that silenced the feminine energy within men too, right?
Mm-hmm.
This is an energy that's alive in us. That's why it's on the planet outside of us. And it's like, until we take ownership and responsibility of like, oh, well, how is this playing out inside of me so that I can integrate this and take responsibility so that it stops being a part of our collective reality. Yeah, it's to me more epidemic and more of a pandemic than any virus ever could be. But it's the truth that many of us don't want to take responsibility for.
Yes, I agree with that wholeheartedly. And I mean, because really the only way that, something like a virus can be so rampant is the unbalanced emotions within people. So, if you're not balanced and you're not, what's the word I want to say? I mean, not to say that you have to be, 100% balanced and nobody's perfect, but if you haven't started to yet look at some of those things within yourself, then yeah, you're just acting and living your life on a very unaware and subconscious level, and I can speak from personal experience because I did that for most of my life. So, and when you're living from that place, you're very susceptible to disease and viruses and all these different things. And that's, that's the thing that people really don't want to talk about. It's like, okay, there's these shots and yes, there's things that you can do, like as far as diet and exercise and things you can do to boost your immune system. But really, like, at the end of the day, it's really about like your level of consciousness and like, where you're willing to go with that and what you're willing to look at.
Yeah. And most people don't want to face what they're afraid of. Truly. That's that at the end of the day, like at the beginning of this, so it's been almost 2 years. At the beginning of this, spirit sat me down and I could feel the fear on the planet. And I was like, okay, well, and everyone has a different definition or experience with fear. And I was talking about this with a client. I look at fear as an invitation because we're biologically wired for fear. The human experience is a part of our dynamics, is we are wired for that. But to me, fear is a protector. Okay, so if I'm being triggered in a place of fear, where does that live inside of me? That is, right? I'm not truly afraid of anything for me, where I'm at. I was like, I'm not afraid to die, or I'm not afraid, like really, truly, because I don't believe that we really die, like on a spiritual level. Like I might shed this suit and not have this particular life experience, but I feel I am very connected to source energy. Mm-hmm. But there's fear that lives inside me. So I was like, okay, well, this is an invitation then, right? I'm being asked to acknowledge pieces and parts of me that had been protected maybe all of my life and are being asked to unearth. So regardless of what people think this came from or how it started, I truly believe life is here to support us, love us, and nurture us. But we've lived on a planet that I feel like has been enslaved, that we've forgotten who we are at our core, including myself, right? And I don't feel like the real spiritual awakening is to remember that we have galactic brothers, or that we have aliens, or that that we can see chakras and communicate with our guides. To me, that's not this real spiritual awakening. The real spiritual awakening for me has been to remember all the pieces and parts of me inside of me that have been afraid, and to bring them home. And that's, to me, separation consciousness. That is merging and embodying God consciousness in the human experience. And that is largely going to do with abuse and sexual abuse on the planet that is rampant. It's just, there's no way it's showing up in our collective, and it's not a part of each one of our realities at some level. And I understand many people don't want to go there because it's super dark, horrific shit to unearth. Most people want to keep those parts locked away inside themselves, and they get it. Like, and to me, that's giving myself more and more compassion for the many years that I kept those parts locked away, because I didn't want to have the tools, the support, or the safety built within me to know how to navigate that. But once spirit, I feel like, brought this stuff down the pipeline, because I knew this was coming a year before it came. Like, I listened to the earth, right? And she just talks to me. And I feel like she can talk to all of us if we sit and listen. To me, that's what all plant medicine's here to remind us, how to listen, and to remind us to collect the pieces and parts of us that have been separate from us for however long, you know? And yeah, it's an epic journey of self-love, and it's really tough, but having these tough conversations is one of the most loving things we can do for each other and the planet and ourselves, you know, first and foremost, for sure.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I agree to everything you just said. I heard something really interesting recently. I was listening to a different podcast, and the guest was saying, he was on a recent, I think he, was on a recent journey with mushrooms, and he was feeling into the consciousness of Mother Earth. And he said, she doesn't know yet. She hasn't decided yet whether or not she wants to allow us to stay here. And I thought that was really interesting. I was like, I could see that. I could see that. But I take everything with a grain of salt, that's just one person's experience. But yeah, really, I think until people choose to look at those scary parts, and until people choose to have the difficult conversations, we're going to keep repeating the same loops and cycles over and over. And even, I haven't watched the news in probably like 5 years, and sometimes it's on the television here, and I've caught like glimpses of it, and it's just the fear and manipulation energy is so strong. It's,
oh my gosh,
blatantly obvious. Like, you only have to watch about 10 seconds of it to feel it. And it's not even a question of, there's no personal choice anymore. It's okay, out of the 3 vaccines, it's recommended that you get this one or this one. Don't get this one over here. Get this one or this one. It's like, oh, okay, well, what if you don't want, to get any of them? There's no conversations around that. And, I notice, because I'm fairly close to a city, and most everyone is wearing a mask, and it's just very, the energy of the fear and manipulation, it's just rampant. It's so strong.
It is. It's so strong because it lives inside of us. It can't be broadcasted collectively if they're not feeding off of what lives inside of us, right? Yes. And so it's like that cycle, like you said, that loop. And it's like, okay, well, if we want to be empowered, then we need to unearth where the fear lives inside of us. And so to me, that's why something that I look at it as like an invitation. Okay, well, if this is an invitation, if fear is truly a protector, not from the mass scale, but from what lives inside of me. Okay, like how do I come into like right relationship with a part of me that feels like it needs protecting? Well, I meet it, I communicate with it, just like I would my friends or my animal or my neighbor. You have a conversation, right? And it's just like being able to have these conversations with these parts of us because we unconsciously project them out. So then instead of having the conversation internally, like sitting down, whether you want to journal or sit in front of a mirror and talk to this protector part or this part that's afraid, and being able to validate it, witness it, see it, make space for it, then we're going to continue to regurgitate that in our lives with our spouses, partners, friends, even animals. And I do feel like we also at some level project a lot of our unconsciousness onto the planet. I've seen a lot of people be like, oh, the earth is so sad. And I'm like, you mean you're so sad? Because if you really own, and I've seen this within myself, the more that I own the depth of the emotions I wasn't safe to have as a child, and I can integrate them now in my adult, I far less project my feelings and I own them.
Mhm.
And then people and places and because the earth to me is a living organism, but like we live in a holographic universe. So like there's the mirror and the projections and being able to navigate all that. When I take ownership of all of it is being in me, including the entire planet system, right? Like, oh, the moon is doing this and the planets are in alignment. And it's like, okay, well, how am I in alignment then? Right? Because I'm the ecstatic universe made manifest. So then you stop putting power outside of you, even with astrology. Like, and I'm learning astrology. It's because that energy is in me and it is just showing up in my world in this way. And so different layers of consciousness, I'm seeing like how people disempower themselves through their projections. So if we actually look at like, oh my God, all of life is a projection, then how am I taking ownership?
Mm-hmm.
So that I can see those parts that I am unconsciously not aware of. We all are unconscious. There's not one person on the planet who isn't, right? So it's just, it's being able to dance with that in a way that is leading us to deeper levels of compassion. And that to me is what this time is calling for more than ever. One, you're being invited for an epic ride of discovering parts of yourself.
Epic.
And then epic, super epic. This is like, whoo, this is like, we all signed up to be here during this time to go through this.
I feel like I'm like, sometimes I'm like Frodo, like with the ring, like.
I definitely felt like I heard Sam running through my head, like his accent the other night. And I'm like, really? I was like, do I have like an Irish guide or something? I don't know, like a Lord of the Rings guy. Like, yeah.
Yeah. And the compassion piece is so important. And that's hard sometimes. I mean, I'm just speaking from personal experience that, that is still difficult sometimes. And I just keep on reminding myself, and keep on reminding myself of it and coming back to it. And whenever I'm, struggling with having compassion for another person, it tells me that I need more of it.
I love that. Yes, absolutely.
Like, let's start here.
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah, it's been an interesting, it's been an epic journey. It's been a really interesting ride so far. So, I'm excited to see what happens, what transpires over the next several months and the next few years. And I think there's going to be a lot of big stuff, a lot of shifting, a lot of people coming to awareness.
I see it like in everyday people. I do see, at least in my world, I do see the compassion more, the kindness more. even if media like wants to tell you different and people can have different opinions, I was like, when you really like get to the roots of like your community or your neighborhood, God, people like, at least here, I feel like are so kind. They'll let you go in line, they'll let you come out in the car. And that's to me the difference between probably small town living in the big city and why I couldn't take the energy of Florida anymore, because it was so frenzied. There's like, 12, 14, 16 lanes of traffic. I'm like, that was just not good for my well-being. I was like, I can handle 2 lanes of traffic.
I
Right.
get that. I totally get that. Cause I lived in Atlanta for a while and I lived in Denver and then I was in California and all these cities. And I lived in cities for most of my life. And then I had a stint where I was up in the North Georgia mountains for about 6 weeks. And even though, um, that was its own really unique, interesting experience, but the environment there, I loved it so much. I just loved being in the country and I didn't care. I didn't even care that I was like far away and we only had like 2 grocery stores and a Walgreens and like we
Yeah.
didn't really have any restaurants. There was maybe like 2 or 3 restaurants and then a bunch of fast food places, but it was just so grounding and quiet and peaceful. And I could actually like be with myself and be with my thoughts. And I didn't have to constantly clear all this
Yeah.
other energy.
Yeah.
So it was amazing. So I definitely want to get back to that. So
Well, you're more than welcome anytime if you want to come for a visit if I'm staying out here.
yeah, I actually want to come back to New Mexico at some point. Probably maybe in the summer or fall of next year. I'm going to try to make that happen.
Yeah. Yeah. And Diana always has space at her place too. It's really, really great. It's been
Yeah,
really great to connect with her. Everyone always asks us, so how did you guys meet? We're like, through our friend Leigh.
I love doing that.
Yeah. Yeah. That's
Every
awesome.
time that happens, my heart just like explodes. Just like,
Aw,
oh, it's
that's
so
so sweet.
good.
I know. And it's so funny. I was telling Diana, like, I was like kind of fangirling her from a distance because she lives a very rooted, sustainable lifestyle that is pretty rare, I feel like, on the planet, unfortunately.
Yeah.
But she reminds me a lot, like her home and her energy was a lot like my grandmother's home. So my grandmother gardened and recycled and lived on like several acres, and so a lot of that energy was present, and she carries very much like mama and grandmother energy. So it's very beautiful to see. I got to see and harvest some from her garden. We had vegetable soup, like
Oh my
we
gosh, and she is such a good cook too.
yeah, right? Yeah. I would say I'm a pretty good cook too. Yeah. So but we went and bought a sustainable Christmas tree. I had never done that before. So a sustainable Christmas tree is the Christmas tree that still has the bulb on the bottom. So you can plant it instead of burning it, right? And so every year they have like 4 or 5 on their property that they planted after Christmas. And I'm like, that's so amazing. And it's a lot of hard work, you guys.
Oh yeah. Planting a tree is hard work. I've done it.
Yeah, I did it most of the summer. I planted a fruit tree on her land. And then I will probably, whenever she goes, help her because I helped her pick out the Christmas tree, go back and help her plant it. Like it feels very important because it's also symbolic of me planting roots in this city, right? In this town of like, I've been a part of planting more plants in New Mexico, I think, than any other state I've been in. I planted like 5 or 6 in the southern part. I can't remember. I don't think I planted one in Santa Fe. And I planted one up here. So it's like, yeah.
You know what else is super interesting? I came across this guy. I think we're Facebook friends, and I talked to him one time, and now I can't remember what this whole process is called, but he has this process that he, his connection, it just kind of came out of him. In the planting of something, you dig the hole, and then you, like the person, go inside the hole And there's this whole like ceremony that people do with you in the hole to like, put your energies in there first, and then you plant the tree. And now it's slipped my mind now, but I thought that was so fascinating.
That's really cool. Yeah, she
Yeah.
showed me as because it's so dry in the desert that they take this piece of cactus leaf that holds a lot of moisture and they put it under the root of the plant to help with it establishing nutrients and water when it's rooting. I was just like, wow, that's really cool. Yeah. I've learned a lot, definitely a lot more connected, I feel like, to the earth in this state than I have been probably since I grew up in Alaska. So I was very connected to the earth when I was up there. And it feels really similar, like a similar energy for me. Obviously not as harsh of winter, thank God. And we're gonna have, I think, one of the warmest winters they've had here in like many, many years. We like normally by this time of year, they said they have a couple of feet of snow on the ground, and we don't even have, like, it can't even stay. We don't even have an inch. It
Yeah, I've
keeps,
heard.
yeah.
Yeah, I was talking to my friends in Colorado. I've heard it's like that there too. Like they haven't even really gotten snow yet. And I'm like, what? No, no snow.
Right. Yeah, like the skiers this year, they've been making clouds to try and make snow. Like you see all the jets flying, and like it's just, I'm like, it's not staying. I was like, I feel like Mother Earth is like, yeah, not this time, guys, not this time.
Yeah, you're gonna have to find something else to do.
Right.
Get creative.
Exactly.
Oh gosh, yeah.
But I'm on a really unique property. I found it's like a country farmhouse, and it has a full apple orchard on the property.
Ooh.
I know. And I didn't even call this in. Like, I feel like my friend, he's in Mexico now, but he was visiting me during Thanksgiving. And he was like, if I lived here, I would have an apple orchard. And like, legit, I was like, you manifested this for me, by the way. With all the
Nice.
apples. I
Nice.
know.
How did you even find the place?
So I just have been looking like on Craigslist, and it just popped up and it aligned. And apparently they had a renter before that ended up backing out. And so Spirit was telling me I would have a place like October, November, and this place was available then. So it just didn't line up. Like I was waiting for money and my money kept getting delayed. So they had another renter. She ended up backing out. My money came through and I got the place.
Super.
So it's kind of like, feels like I was supposed to have this place all along. Obviously I'm here, right? What's made for you is meant for you, doesn't go by you. Yeah. It kind of goes back to the original message we started with, right?
Mm-hmm. If it's meant to be, it'll come back.
Absolutely.
It'll come back. It's kind of true for anything, relationships, anything really.
I truly, truly believe that. Yeah.
I do. I believe that too. And also going back to, I think we were talking about if it doesn't seem like it's working, like if it's not aligned, then yeah, I'm not really interested. Because I've been having some experiences like that too lately. And yeah, I just drop it. I'm like, meh, whatever. I'm not really attached to any outcome, like what you were saying.
Yeah.
So yeah, doesn't feel right, just drop it, let it go. And that's such like a freeing place to be in, because I notice and witness in other people, and I used to be like this too, and I'm sure I still am on some level. It's just changing. But witnessing in other people the attachment to a thing or an outcome or something, and the entrapment that causes by the inability to let go.
Well, I feel like attachments are really, I feel like I have less attachments to things, places, and even people than probably most people do. Um, but I do feel like attachments are important because it shows us where we're not willing to honor ourselves, right? So we attach the parts of us unconsciously outwardly to a situation, a person, or a place because we feel like we're going to get something. And it's mostly that we aren't giving ourselves that thing, whatever that is, that feeling, that acknowledgement, right? Like being present with yourself. And so then we outwardly attach it. Oh, but if I get this thing, this will make me feel this way. If I'm with this person, I'll feel this way. And it's like, none of that. And then you get it. And then you realize, oh, that doesn't really give me what I want. Right. And you're just like, yeah, because you need to sit and be with yourself, because you are the master creator of your inner reality. Just you give yourself that. And walking the Camino in northern Spain really taught me that. It taught me that, you know, every journey is just one step at a time. There's no such thing as a destination. It's just the evolution of the path. And no one outside of me could give me what I was looking for but me. And just, you know, to me, like the commitment of showing up, whether I ever complete anything, is everything. And those lessons, that was like 8 years ago, that journey that, you know, we were talking about the beginning of like that journey, that path called me 12 years ago. So now that was 12 years plus 8. So like almost 20 years ago, right? That it called me, that I actually did it almost 9 years ago. And that those lessons from that calling stay with me today. And remind me it's just one step at a time, one day at a time, one moment at a time. And just being present. And it's challenging to be present when we're carrying a lot of the past unconsciously that we haven't met within ourselves. The past is alive in each and every one of us. And the more that we face it, the more that we bring those parts of ourselves home. That's, to me, the journey.
That is so beautiful. Oh, you have so much wisdom. I love hearing your wisdom, and I love your energy. Thank you for sharing all that you have with us today.
It's been a pleasure. I really appreciate the work you're doing and the conversations you're having like this with people. It's beautiful. It's very inspiring as well.
And it's time. So, yeah. You know, I put another call out today, you know, if anybody wants to come on, and we'll see what happens. But
well, I will mention it to Dianna, because I think she would be an amazing guest for you to have on your show. You would have great conversation.
We chatted briefly about it.
Did you? I will nudge her again. I'm going to be spending Christmas with her and her dad. So.
Oh, how nice. That will be lovely. That will be lovely.
Absolutely.
Well, for people who are resonating with your energy, and, you know, maybe they want to reach out and get in touch, what's the best way for them to do that? And I can post any link in the description too. Yeah,
that'd be great. You can come to my website. It's AngelaBenck, BENCK.com. I teach courses. I do one-on-one work. I'm in the process of rebranding. So a lot of people come to my website and they're like, but that's not like what I'm interested in. It's like, trust me, like I'm in the process of overhauling everything. I'm doing a lot of like womb wisdom work, working with women and expanding their consciousness, doing the inner work, really following their deepest longings or desires and dreams, and like being able to practically ground and root that in their lives. And I'm calling in a whole new one-on-one group. So if you do resonate, I would love for you to reach out for us to have a conversation, connect, see if it's in alignment.
Yeah, and since I've sat with Angela personally, I can attest that she's a magnificent space holder.
Oh, thank you so much. I appreciate that.
Yes, absolutely. It's well deserved. So yeah, if anybody is, you know, if you're resonating with her, I highly recommend that you do reach out.
Thank you.
Well, Angela, it's been a pleasure. It's been an honor to have you here.
Yes.
And I hope that the viewers, I hope you enjoyed our conversation.